Good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
We have a special episode tonight,
Oh yeah.
but I don't think we're going to jump straight into that. I got some follow-up I want to go into first.
By all means.
Last week, after the Apple event, we were talking about the differences between the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max and the non-Pros as far as the camera systems go. And I think I had them wrong. So I created a chart that I will put in the RSS feed. But basically the quote-unquote normal camera, the one that Apple refers to as the wide camera, is the one that is significantly better on the 12 Pro Max. And so I'm going to miss out on those because I refuse to go with a big-ass phone. But that's the main piece of follow-up from that chart, unless you actually have something specific in there you want to go through.
No. Are you going to get a package tomorrow?
I'm hoping so, but it's kind of uncertain. According to Apple, my device is still preparing for shipment, but UPS sent me a notification that I had a package arriving tomorrow, or scheduled for delivery tomorrow. And since it comes from China and from AI, which is what Apple has on all their packages, we'll see.
I mean, in the past, people have gotten them early. I feel like I've heard more stories about them just sitting at a UPS sorting facility in the town you live in, or the closest town or facility, and just hanging out until the day of.
Yeah, I've had 2 instances of receiving mine early. I don't remember which models. I just remember there were 2 different ones that came a day prior. And so I don't expect anything to show up tomorrow, but I will be pleasantly surprised if it does.
Totally.
I did also see, I know the embargo on the reviews lifted today, and I saw a couple of pictures of the blue aluminum 12 and the Pacific Blue 12 Pro side by side, and I'm very glad I went with the Pacific Blue. It's more subdued, looks a lot better to me.
Yeah, I remember seeing the Midnight Green from the 11 and thinking it was really nice, but looking on the website, I was like, it looks less nice. But I think in real life, it looks nicer than the pictures. So I think the Pacific Blue looks nice in pictures, and so I'm hoping it looks even better in person.
I want to also call out one particular post. Gruber gave his initial impressions from the event on Daring Fireball. Don't need to go into any quotes from it. It was just a good write-up, interesting take on some thoughts on the lack of a 12 Pro Mini and the lack of a non-Pro Max.
Maybe, Apple, they like to test the waters. They are not the company that throws spaghetti to the wall to see what sticks.
Did you get a chance to watch the West Wing special?
Sadly, I did not.
All right, well, we can strike that from the topic list for now.
I should have looked at the topic list and had it in, because it was like was it an hour long?
Yeah, right about, and it was really well done.
I'll watch it tonight.
It went well with one of the primary topics for this evening. Is the reason I added it.
Oh, well, pause this. Let me go watch it. I'll be right back.
Well, I guess before or without any further ado, our guest tonight is a host of another podcast called The Noob Guy, and I'm going to pause there and let him explain where that comes from and what the podcast is about.
Thank you for having me. I am the Noob Guy. Well, the Noob Guy comes from an idea of having me talking about topics that I'm not an expert on. So, as you define in one of the in one of the previous episodes of this podcast, that I'm not an expert in politics, but that is not going to stop me. It's kind of the same idea. At the end of the day, I was very much interested in talk about topics that I'm not an expert on. You can take it as a legal disclaimer if you want. But give my opinion on some of them. I believe is an interesting way of taking risks. Leave the comfort zone away. to explore some other things and also to research on those. So that's at the end of the day what noob means. You are new. Usually these are gaming stuff, although I'm very little gamer. But note that I'm new to many topics, that I'm new to all of those. However, I make some either research or have a little experience on them. Also, due to I'm also noob for podcasting, as you can imagine, I decided to do the Noob Guy to be short episodes. They are around 13 minutes long, with a monologue so far. Having the intention of soon enough having guests where you guys of course are invited to talk like lightly about whichever topic we consider suitable. So that's more or less how the Noob Guy come to life and the intentions that I have with the channel at the end of the day.
And so part of how this collaboration came about, you had an episode imploring people to go vote. And in that episode, you mentioned us as a fellow set of podcasters. And we also, of course, are fairly early in the show run, this being episode 7. But we thought quite timely, with the election coming up soon, to circle back to that topic before the election and see where it goes. And so I don't know exactly what you wanted to talk about with regards to voting and what people choose to or choose not to do and why. But we'll certainly comment on it, whether qualified or not.
That's perfect. And yeah, so I've heard many times, it's pretty frequent that people actually say like, well, I mean, a vote won't change anything and a vote won't make a difference. However, I am of the belief that every action matters at the end of the day, and the people that decided, no, I won't vote anyway because it won't represent anything, then in my mind there are usually in my experience also some of the biggest complainers. The government is bad or is doing X and Y and Z. So I think that exercising your right, because at the end of the day is a right, but is also to some extent a society duty. You should vote and express whoever your candidate or the candidate that represents best your ideals. I also mentioned in that episode that I don't know if the null vote is something here that exists and it has any power on it at all. In the country I'm come from, the null vote can actually do a lot of things if it's the winner. Sadly, it has never been, but the theory exists and applies. So I always invoke everybody to vote, to exercise democracy to the fullest, to actually, try to make in the due diligence before voting. A lot of people, and I heard this a lot, like, okay, I am from one side or the other, and I will vote for whoever my candidate is for my representation or whatever the political affiliation is, without giving a second thought, and then we end up with like, how do I do this politically correct? We end up with undesirable characters in some positions of power. So
that's true.
We don't worry too much about being politically correct on this show.
Fuck that.
Well, I'm a guest, but I cannot say like, oh, we end up with this clown. That's kind of bad, right?
No, it's kind of true.
That's being generous, actually.
Yeah, it really is. I have a previous manager that I worked under, was good friends with as well. I see him using just 2 emojis to refer to the occupant in the Oval Office, or the current occupant there, and it's the brown chocolate emoji that people think is shit, and the clown emoji.
I will add the orange emoji just for coloring accuracy.
Yeah, I think that, so this election will be the sixth presidential election I've been old enough to vote in. So the first one I was 19, it was 20 years ago. And I got some really good advice before that election, either in my sometime in my freshman year of college. I took two history classes, back to back, Western civilization history, and I had the same professor for both semesters because I really liked the professor. And he put out some really good advice, and it was like, don't ever think that you're voting for a candidate. If you think that you're voting for a candidate, you'll always be disappointed. You're usually having to vote for the candidate that is less worse than the other. And that has never felt truer than this election. But I don't know. Old Shovelly Joe is kind of growing on me right now, but we'll see. I actually had thoughts about Trump. After the dismay from November 4 years ago, I thought perhaps he won't be a total shit show and do something at least good for the economy. I can't say it's been stellar. I know some, rich people got happy, but nothing really super great. And the things that he had done that have been bad have been worse than I would have expected.
There is a very famous phrase or saying from a politologist. I don't know if that's the correct or accurate word, or a political study that says that the people or the population or the countries that ignore the history are condemned to repeat it.
Yeah.
So I always say that history, a lot of people get, drowsy in history class because the professor talks very monotonic or whichever the reason. But dude, it's so true. In my country, we have one clown after the other, and the current one, we call it Porky. Imagine. Yeah, I mean, it's laughable and sad at the same time, and he's the vivid example of a previous president or a former president that we had. So we are repeating the history over and over and over again, and I agree with the less bad, or the lesser of the evils. However, I usually try to vote for an ideology, but it's kind of romantic to actually say kind of thing. So.
Yeah, I don't even like to say lesser of two evils, because I was like, with the exception of Trump, I don't feel like maybe the lesser of two corruptions. I was thinking like the comment that you made about people that like my vote doesn't matter, and when you have a lot of folks that think that, then like your non-vote really does matter, and in a number of elections it really has mattered. And if everyone turned that around and says my single vote doesn't matter, but if everybody votes, it does matter. It does matter. It is a better representation of what the entire population wants to do. So I've actually sort of gotten to the point in the past week or two that I've been become relatively fatigued thinking about the election, and my privilege is such that in 2 weeks I won't have to if I don't want to. My life isn't going to change that much. But there are a lot of people in this country that their life is going to be very much different very much the same depending on who is elected. And so I felt like, you know what, I vote, but that's kind of the bare minimum. And I've thought about the things that I can do. Like, I don't want to run for any sort of office. I don't want to get into politics. But what can I do that's beyond the bare minimum? And so I've been working out a strategy. I was just going to say, I've been working out a strategy for that.
I think we can extend my previous offer. In 4 years for president, we can write in Jesse Hart. And I'll make sure I pack the cabinet with other people who are equally unqualified.
It would be better. I mean, Jesus Christ. So, anyway.
Well, I think this is a good illustration of the only time I can think of where you are literally voting for evil or not evil.
Yeah.
There is one reason that I wish I can vote today, right now, that I can't because of my legal status here is a permanent resident. I don't have the right of vote. But there's one topic that concerns me substantially. Among all the stuff that the current president has done, there is one that is particularly concerning to me, and is on June of 2020, President Trump signed the United States leaving the World Health Organization. And yes, I am not defending the World Health Organization as the pinnacle of what should be done or what have to be done. However, there are some substantial achievements that the World Health Organization has done. We can call it the eradication of a couple of illnesses worldwide, and some other things. And in the middle of a pandemic, take such a decision, because yes, there is a lot of influence on China, and that's the part that I am not completely aware of, because the WHO has said that China has done a great job on this pandemic, which I respectfully disagree. But removing or recusing the U.S. from this, I think is concerning to me. There is, I have been concerned of this since the announcement, of course. There is an episode of John Oliver. If at some point any of you actually follow him or see his episodes, I think the one on Sunday was talking about that, and he actually thinks basically identical to what I'm saying right now, that I have been thinking on, but he's better informed. So I don't know if you guys have any opinion on that, but that's my biggest concern, that if Trump wins, he will pursue that. And I don't think that's correct, in my opinion. I won't go farther because I don't want to get into your show and make it a political only. But that will be my only concern on these current elections. So
that's a huge concern.
Well, we're going to do plenty to make it political. That's fine. Because over the past couple of days, there have been a number of posts on social media and headlines and stories where Trump has attacked Dr. Fauci, and his logic against Biden is that Biden will listen to the scientists. I don't know how that's an attack. I don't get any rational person that would buy that as a negative. Unfortunately, I have had the displeasure of meeting a handful of Trump supporters over the past few weeks that there's nothing rational or logical about them anyway.
I had the displeasure of meeting with one yesterday that this person is already ready for Trump loses the election and saying that it's a hoax. He said oh yeah, the Virginia thing, that they found a lot of vote for Trump in a swamp or something, and that we will become communist and everything. It was very upsetting. I decided to tell him you know what, let's not talk politics, because I feel that there is a lot of people getting excuses already, handful of excuses, ready to throw, and because they, according to the polls that even Fox News present, Biden is ahead of Trump for a substantial amount. So, I don't know.
There's an interesting correlation here. So October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and I know as a segue that doesn't sound like there would be a very interesting correlation, but over the course of the month, a number of relatively large conferences revolving around security in the online world are taking place, and so there are talks from a number of different places and organizations. And a very common theme has been talking about misinformation campaigns and the spread of just completely biased and unsubstantiated or insubstantiated claims that are specifically geared toward shifting public opinion and discourse away from the facts and what reality is actually presenting. And I think it's apt to mention it here because the misinformation campaign around what is possible with regard to voter fraud is probably the most ridiculous argument that I've heard about this election.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with that, and the fact that is just I hear the news sometimes in the office when I'm around. Of course, my office being located in Alabama, you know which network is tuned on. So I checked on and I hear I feel that they are it's not just misinforming, but uninforming. I don't know. It's pretty weird, but aside of everything, just a kind of funny comment on that. I remember that. Do you remember the time when actually Trump said that he was also scientist because one uncle of his was scientist and that he has like the scientific in his genes? So attacking Biden because he's hearing scientist is kind of like gone against himself. I know nobody will make that correlation, but that's why I'm the noob guy. I can do it.
I don't remember him saying that, but that sounds like one of the smarter comments that he's made. But it's
yeah. He's from the same creators of I know words, I know the best words. He's like I know science, I know the best science, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
On par with a lab rat.
No, the lab rats are a lot nicer.
Oh my god. And their objective is way clearer.
Yeah. I want some food, I want some sleep, I want to make more rats.
Especially the latter. But yeah, I mean that's all this discussion generation can be in the mind of everybody. And at the end of the day, if you want to vote, by all means, I know you guys will, or that's what I think.
Yes,
I already have.
Oh, there you go.
No, I will vote. I guess I'll vote on election day.
I did the absentee ballot.
I heard a lot of that the ballot has a lot of restrictions, that your signature, if it is slightly different, they won't accept it, and there's a lot of comments about the ballots being nullified just for small details. I don't know if yours.
Yeah,
go ahead.
There's some misinformation there as well. The requirement on an absentee ballot is that you must have it either notarized or signed by two different witnesses.
Oh, okay.
I feel like November's going to be quite the shit show.
I plan to be drunk most of November up until the final counts are in. I'm not going to count anything as being even remotely accurate.
They normally call the election like late Tuesday night, maybe into Wednesday morning, depending on which time zone you're. But I don't expect to know until later that week at best. Like, I don't think it's going to be a quick thing. Well, I take that back. There are some, when they count, all of the absentee ballots, they go to polling place. They go to a place where people unpack them. They don't get to unpack them until day of election, and then they have to stay in the room unpacking them until they're all unpacked and counted. So I take that back. We'll know soon, but I still think November is going to be a shit show because.
Well, the groundwork has already been laid that it's going to be contested either way.
Well, it's not going to be contested if he wins. Like if he's, I don't know. This is I think back 20 years ago to my first presidential election that I voted in, and I think about the Al Gore, I feel like a lot of folks that voted for him thought that he conceded too easily. So at this point, I feel like if Trump wins again, I don't want to see Joe Biden be a gentleman. I want to see him tell Trump to shut up and make sure that the American people voted for him.
Well, he did already tell him to shut up once.
I know. I need to hear it again.
Have you guys seen the Saturday Night Live comedy side of the debate?
Mm-mm.
I have not. I
started watching the real one, and I had to turn off because it was so. How do I word this? It was so confusing and noisy and meaningless that I decided, okay, you know what? I will watch the parody or the comedy one, which is the one in Saturday Night Live. Jim Carrey is Joe Biden, and the usual Trump, of course. And I find that incredibly accurate, despite the fact that it's a comedy show, and incredibly more enjoyable. So I suggest you guys, if you have any time, check it out, because it is quite good. It's short as well. I mean, it's like 10 minutes, but it's pretty good. I can share you the links in the notes if you want.
Totally. I think that that debate was one of the first ones like that. Well, I mean, at least in recent time, maybe since they've been televised. I don't know. I don't. In my adult life, I certainly don't recall a debate that was that hard to watch. And I know a lot of people probably tuned out pretty early on, and I felt like Biden figured out where he needed to be about 30 minutes in, but it was still relatively difficult to watch. But a man with the vocabulary or lack thereof that Trump has always been difficult to listen to. I'm not even trying to say that to be like ugly or make fun of him. He just has a really basic vocabulary.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would say basic. Incorrect seems to be more accurate. Like he has a vocabulary, and there are a number of words in his vocabulary that mean nothing that he can string together relatively well, and a number of words should connotate something that, when combined with the other words that he's presenting, are just garbage.
Yeah. Well,
I'm also not necessarily trying to make it sound overly hostile. It's just that I can't think of anyone else that has held public office that could not present a cohesive thought.
In one of the topics that he was talking recently, I forgot the topic. That's how relevant it appears to me. He deviates into much noise, and he starts giving. It's like spiral talk. Instead of going to the point and present information, it's like he's talking spirals, and then and in the middle of the conversation, he's like, okay, let's say that North Korea has a problem, right? So he says, okay, I have the president of North Korea, which I have, and he introduces distraction, which I have very great relationship with him. He's excellent. We are great. He sent me letters. I sent him letters. We are friends. He said that he will stop the nuclear program, and then he said which I told him, because we send letters. We are friends. We are very close friends. We send every time. He says that I'm the best president, and he gets into those little side talks, and the topic is hanging around, and then he comes back. So the cohesiveness that you can have from point A to point B gets lost. It's like if you go from one place to another by car and you stop in every single rest area, and then you start doing laps in the rest area or something, your GPS will be cancelled. I don't know.
Please correct your... Did either of you read the proclamation on Columbus Day 2020?
I did not.
I have not either.
Yeah, so there was a proclamation on Indigenous Peoples Day from the White House. It was written in the first person by Donald J. Trump, and it was very out of character for him. Well, not the message, but the actual the vocabulary and the verbiage that was used in that proclamation. You know, I know that presidents have not just like a writer, but they have like a whole writing staff. And, you know, that writing staff is responsible for things like a proclamation like this, or, you know, all the speeches and addresses, and even like a birthday message or something like that. And so reading this proclamation and written in the first person and seeing at the end that it was signed by Trump, it was really interesting. It was very out of character because, I mean, it used words that he just doesn't use in his vocabulary. And I mean, there was like words like iconoclast or hemisphere. Like I don't expect to hear that come. I don't think that's ever come out of his mouth. Nothing that I've ever heard. But it's a kind of one. It's a piece of garbage. The proclamation itself is. It's the written equivalent of asking him to denounce white supremacists, and he's like, yeah, just stand by. You know, it's like that. It is a piece of garbage, but it's just sort of jarring to read something that was well written with his name on it.
You know, the sad part is that even though you say it's garbage, I'm very, very much sure that he didn't understand some of those words.
You know, it's one of those things where, like, I heard him say a word that I was like, oh, I've never heard him use that kind of word in his vocabulary. So it's not like, it's not. I think it was quid pro quo. I think that was the term that he used, and it's not like, I don't think he's dumb in the way that he doesn't know things. He just hasn't assimilated them into the way he hasn't. You know, he's not a great orator. He's a terrible speaker. So.
Usually the best speeches that I've heard of him, and the best is being very generous, are the ones that he don't improvise. That he just have teleprompter screens and he reads and leaves.
Right, the ones that were written by his staff.
Right. Again, I'm being generous with the best. But usually, let's say that you have a high local. You know, it's a localized high point only to the subset of his speeches, which are, you know, debatable.
Did you guys see that Sam Elliott contributed to an ad for Biden?
No, that surprises me.
Yeah, I heard that, but I've never seen it.
I'll see if I can find a link at some point, but it caught me off guard as well.
Wow.
I mean, even Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who has never talked about politics and who is not a political figure of any means, but is popular, endorsed Biden maybe a few weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah. I even go and say like vote for Biden or you will have these muscles in your face. Yeah.
There's been a surprising amount of I'm not going to say pressure to vote because it's not taken that way, but a surprising number of people and companies and organizations and individuals really coming out and saying just go vote.
Well, you know, for the first time in the 4 years that I've been at our company, they've made it a paid holiday.
Yeah, that was very surprising to me. Yeah.
It's serious. Like, it should have always been serious, and it's clear to me it not being a national holiday, like a federal holiday, just indicates it's another form of voter suppression. Yeah, it's I think going to be the most important election. I've said this before, but I think it's going to be the most important election I'll ever vote in.
All general commentary aside for a moment, all of us would certainly implore anyone that happens to hear our voices between now and Election Day to make certain to go and cast your vote.
Yes.
By all means.
That kind of, you know, that actually leads me into like maybe a good segue into like what I want. I've decided I want a new strategy for expressing myself regarding politics, because it is important. I feel like voting is the bare minimum that a citizen can do. Prior to this election, or currently, I've never registered with either of the party. I've always felt like the two-party system is bad. It is bad. And it doesn't help. I mean, just because I feel like the two-party system is bad and me not registering with either party doesn't make the two-party system go away. It doesn't add another party. So before the next set of primaries, I plan to register as a Republican. So I can cast a vote for the most liberal Republican there is. I want to be able to have it's not like can't beat them, join them, but rather infiltrate them. So that's one thing. And before that, when Congress is in session, I'm going to email my representatives. I'm not going to do the chain email. Well, I'll probably send chain emails, or rather form emails to them from time to time. I've done that before, but I'm going to write my representatives directly. I've only done that a few times, and the last time was in December of 2012, after the mass shooting at Sandy Hook. I wrote my representative and told him, I feel like it's obvious to me that we need gun control. And I got a bullshit letter back from him, but I'm going to keep doing it. It's one of the most important things. Like, it's one of the things that they actually take very seriously. Will it affect it? I don't know, because, if 1% of the people that vote for them send them a letter, at least for my representatives, the letter probably will count for more than my actual vote, even though it may not change that particular representation's voting track. But I think it actually will count more than my vote will.
It's an interesting way to think about it. I'll have to find out what the app I'm thinking of is. There was an app that was developed relatively recently that allowed seamless sending of correspondence to representation. And I don't know the limitations or all the details around it, but I'll take that as a takeaway to find out what the app was. We'll circle back to that.
There's an app for that.
Oh, there's an app for everything.
Oh my God. Well, do you remember it wasn't, well, actually it was kind of, that used to be a thing. It's like, our app store is really good. It's better than the other app store. Sorry, I just remember putting up a window decal when there were 150,000 apps in the Apple App Store or iOS App Store. Now there's over 1 million.
That's where the phrase "there's an app for that" came from.
I know. That was on the window. There's an app for that.
Interesting aside, did you see that the Department of Justice filed the antitrust case, or is planning to file the antitrust case against Google?
No.
And I think the headline was that the plan is for the suit to be filed this week.
Wait, is it against Google or Alphabet?
I don't know. I didn't actually follow the link to read the details, because until it's actually filed, I don't know what it really means for anybody anyway.
Yeah, it's a lot of, you can say you're going to do a thing, but until you do the thing, it doesn't matter. I don't know.
It does make me wonder what's next, though, since the big companies being Amazon, Facebook, Google / Alphabet, and Apple were the primary subjects of the investigation. Yeah.
Well, I think, and it's been said better on other podcasts, but I think that the idea of an antitrust that we commonly think of is probably going to be different concerning these companies. Because it's not about a monopoly anymore. It's about lack of competition.
And one of the things is also the premature stifling of competition through flexing of power in the market. So like in Google's case, I think was it Google or Facebook? One of the two, the target of the investigation was basically limiting or stifling competition through acquisition.
That sounds like a Google thing, but it could be a Facebook thing too. But because Facebook bought WhatsApp, bought Instagram, and so forth. But I just heard, said in my head what I just said, and it is all about the competition. It's just that it's not. I was just thinking in the case of Apple, it's not that they have a monopoly on the industry. It's that they own the platform and they make the rules for the platform, and they have their a set of rules for themselves, and they have a set of rules for people that they have to have, or they placate and give allowances to the companies that are in their app store that they must have, like where it would be really bad for them to not have them in their app store versus everybody else. So unlike Microsoft 20, 30 years ago, where they just owned everything, like, or rather they had the entire market, virtually had all of the market share.
Yeah, that strategy of buying the competition, or just, buying companies overall, is a strategy of every big company, including ours. We work in this organization, and when we were running our business, and the main competition was out there either outselling us or struggling to sell more than us, but still having a fair market share. The intention then of the company was like, okay, let's buy them too. And we end up, sorry, go ahead. So we end up with the two companies that were a beforehand competition to be just basically part of the same company. And now there is virtually non-competition. Of course, in our field, which I'm not planning to disclose any, but there is still some sort of competition. But our company owns probably the biggest amount of there is in the field. So it's not news from anyone, and Facebook has done it, as you mentioned it, with WhatsApp and Instagram and everything. And I'm pretty sure that Apple back in the time do something similar, and Google, or Alphabet, whichever of the two, has done it as well. And at the end of the day, if you think about it, you are legally not in a monopoly, because you have different signatures or different quote unquote companies, but you rule them all like Sauron.
I was just thinking, like, I remember when I first started working at this job, people would ask me, and I would explain, because it's never straightforward, because when you work for a company this big, there's a lot of divisions. And so I was explaining the difference, like specifically what I did and the company within the organization I worked for and so forth. And, I explained, if you can't beat them, acquire them. And that's a lot of what these, like just what you just described, these companies are doing. But there's also a strategy on the other end where you've got a great idea and you get you get a lot of VC funds, and you try to get it up and going, and you start a company that's basically a proof of concept so that it will be purchased by one of these large companies. The goal is to be acquired, and a lot of times that's been a viable strategy. Sometimes you go bust on that, probably more times than are being successfully acquired, because there's also the whole companies kind of just wait around and wait for you to fall apart and get the IP for really cheap. But it's very much a strategy to be acquired.
Yeah. Netflix itself, when they begin the company, the intention was to be acquired, and they went to offer themselves to, okay, we have a sort of valuable to Blockbuster, that's correct. And Blockbuster said, like, you will never succeed it. And we know the rest of the story. I think there is one Blockbuster store in Alaska, in Anchorage, that is available and is still operational, and that's it.
So my mom and my sisters live in a town that is rated it's in the top 10 worst ISPs in the country. So not the top 10 worst ISPs in Alabama, but in the whole of the United States. Top 10, made the top 10. And it's evident. It's totally evident. And
is it dial-up? You still have the...
No. That's funny. A high school friend of mine, his mom lives like even farther out in the country, and yes, they are still on dial-up. No, my parents do have broadband, or my mom and sisters have broadband. It really is. Next time I'm there, I'll do a speed test. I haven't thought to do that in a while. But Netflix quite good at stream and figuring out, it will give you the best quality video for the rate that you have so that you're not buffering. But it's good enough that the Blockbuster there has gone out of business, and it is now a Latin grocery store. It's great.
I was about to say, it's a Radio Shack.
No, well, Radio Shack's gone.
I know, that's why.
I mean, that was one of the Radio Shack in their town was like one of the last Radio Shacks I ever visited. But the Blockbuster that's there, it's still got the blue sign. It's even got the sign where you can see where it used to say Blockbuster, but it now has the name of the grocery store on there, and it's pretty great. I have a picture. I'll put it in the notes.
Have you seen the Twitter account of the last remaining Blockbuster?
No.
They have a Twitter account? Wow.
That's awesome.
I don't remember where it is or any details. I'll see if I can't find it and add it to the notes.
The last information that I had on the Blockbuster store is in Anchorage, the location of it, or in somewhere in Alaska. I mean, that's the last piece of information I have, but I mean, I would love to go there and take a picture there for sure.
I don't think I could. It's not. I gotta need something else to be in Alaska. It can't be just Blockbuster.
Oh, absolutely not. But I mean, it's not like. So why were you visiting us here? Oh, I want to see the Blockbuster. No. But I mean, the place is beautiful. The views are amazing, and it isn't a fantastic experience. And as a bonus, you have Blockbuster. You can rent a movie.
Do you think that they still have VHS?
I hope they still have the Nintendo 64 cartridges.
Just as a quick location, real-time update, the last remaining store is in Bend, Oregon, according to a New York Times post from March of 2019.
Okay.
Then I was, okay. Then no Alaska for you.
That's closer.
Yeah. Let's have a road trip.
I have some good friends from Oregon, and that I don't know why that's important.
I mean, I don't think you cannot bring it up. You can bring it up.
I had that's all I had. I was not going anywhere else with that, so.
Okay. For a second, it's like, this is your show. You can talk whichever you want.
That's true.
Even I'm doing it, and I'm just a guest. Imagine that.
So they're definitely still open. An article from August of 2020 states that the last Blockbuster in the world will soon be available to rent on Airbnb.
Oh my God.
Like how? Like, that wasn't what Blockbuster was originally doing, though. They were never.
Blockbuster is no more, sir.
Oh, this is just the building. They're not renting They're not renting movies there, are they?
Yes, they are renting movies.
Okay.
There. They're also apparently, according to the article, going to allow the location to be rented via Airbnb for movie parties, and there are a bunch of limitations based on, like, it has to be local residents and some other stuff.
I see. So, are they doing business as Blockbuster, or is it like a business that was a Blockbuster that I guess was bought out by the last, the owner, and doing business as their own company? Or do they own the Blockbuster company as little as it is now? Those are the questions I have at this point.
It sounds like good follow-up for you.
Oh boy.
Blockbuster was so big. Even in my country, we had a couple of Blockbuster stores. I had my card. I rent movies there. Of course, I rewind them before I return. Of course, I'm a good citizen.
Did you?
And
No, I was gonna say, did you own a rewinder?
I did. I just remove it from the VHS, and I have that looks like a car. I just put it on for hours. It was pretty slow.
You know, I think that's going to be like probably the hardest technology to explain to Gen Z or Gen Alpha. My kids know what a record is. They know what cartridges are. I think they know what audio cassette tapes are. And if I showed them a VHS cassette tape, I don't think that they know what that is. They know what DVDs are because game consoles still have discs. But the rewinder, like they know how a phone works. They've watched movies where people use a telephone that's not a cell phone. But I think the rewinder will be like the most interesting thing to explain to my children.
I am planning to explain to my daughter two things: the floppy disk, the fact that there was a one that was like flexible,
yeah,
and was like 5.5 inches, and the fact that you can rewind the cassettes with a pen.
Yes,
just tuck in one of the heads, and just if it's in your right hand, you were doing rewind. If it's in your left hand, you were doing forward.
Yep.
Strategy.
You know, there's a YouTube channel that I follow. It's called the 8-Bit Guy, and he has a whole, I want to say 20 or 30 minutes of all sorts of rare media types, like all sorts of optical discs, all sorts of floppy disks, things that I'd never seen before. And it's pretty cool. But I think one of the funniest memes I've ever seen was a guy had a picture of a 3.5-inch floppy disk, and I think the setting was he was a school teacher, and his student said, "Oh, you have a 3D printout of the save icon."
The save icon,
yeah. It is interesting that the save icon was like it didn't come about until 3.5-inch floppies were in vogue. Because it's not the 5 1/4, or even I can't remember the size. I can't remember the size before that was bigger than the 5 1/4.
And the triangular one.
There's
the one I had.
I don't know this one.
Yes, there was one. There was one with a triangular shape. That was an attempt of IBM, if I'm not recall erroneously, because it was the other big ones were pretty quote unquote unpractical. So the triangular is saving you a lot of real estate, and it has just the disk in the middle, so you are also losing a lot of capacity. So it was a fail, but yeah.
You know, one of the things I wish I had, well, in retrospect, I'm glad I didn't get into it. But one of the things I think was really good. It just was too late. But mini disc.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of mini disc.
I had a mini disc player for a short time.
I think everybody had
I owned a mini disc. Yeah.
I was gonna say I think everybody had a mini disc player for a short time. I think its peak was being at the beginning of The Matrix. Neo had that whole fake book filled with the mini discs.
And the fact that Michael Jackson decided his last album to be released in mini disc form as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I purchased mine because of Michael Jackson's latest release was in mini disc. I later realized that because of the lack of popularity, it was popular to some extent, but not to like wide open. It was also recorded as a CD, but the original intention of Jackson was actually to present it as a mini disc at first.
Well, it was very popular among enthusiasts, and it's It was a good format. It just didn't catch on. I don't think it was, people talk about Betamax was a much better format than VHS, and there's a whole thing about like the history of VHS, or VHS triumphed over Betamax because I think it had to do with the porn industry. That's my recollection. Well, because I think those that backed VHS got porn to go on VHS, and that's what made the difference. I don't know. That's more feedback for myself. But it was everyone says Betamax was a better format, and I think minidisc was a better format, but it didn't get beat out. But it was like a better format than compact disc because it was smaller and higher quality, more better fidelity, and so forth. But it got beat out by digital. Digital is so much more convenient.
Yeah, I think that the fact that the minidisc didn't succeed was that not long after the first iPod, that was basically a hard drive running behind a case with some sort of capacity buttons, basically annihilate the competition. Even though the competition, Sony bring up an MP3 player together with I think it's Philips, maybe I'm mistaken, that they were sure they will the iPod will not be able to compete because it's chunky and big. But iPod was an 80 gigabytes capacity, like 20, 40, 80. And you had a hard drive, and you can do some more than just hear to listen to music. And the design, of course, it was catchy, it was cool. And year after year, they start decreasing the size. And, I think the iPod is by far behind the iPhone the best or one of the most radical changes in our technology nowadays. I think personally in wearable and devices that you can transport easily.
Oh yeah, I can remember being in high school, and I don't know why, but I was a big fan of Sony products, and I bought a Sony Discman when I was 15, and I had my Case Logic CD wallet with all my music, and I'd have that big old thing, and in the car with. I actually still have it. I'd have that thing in the car full of music, and my CD player, and I can remember thinking like how much I would love to have. It was basically an MP3 player, a device where I could just have all of my music, and I could just pick it. And I guess that wasn't hard to come up with. But then a few years later, the iPod came out, and I remember the first generation iPod because my boss at the time was given one by the company that. It was expensed by the company. It was a small company, and they were mostly Apple. And it was very interesting because if there was a cool new toy that they could vaguely justify as a company expense, would get the company to buy it for them.
The main sell point for me with the iPod is that I had the opportunity to have two friends, one with an iPod and one with a Sony device. And I asked them to put the same song, which is We Are the Champions of Queen. Mm-hmm. And I listened back to back in both of the devices, and the Apple was far superior. The bass was far more, like, it was clear, it was clean. Both of them said, the guy of the Sony was like, if I knew this, I wouldn't buy the Sony one. So the quality, I don't know if it was the headphones, the hijack, was with a higher power output. I have no idea. I honestly don't know. The quality was far superior. And I said, like, I have my vote now. And since then, I have owned an iPod until it becomes part of the iPhone.
Do you remember the Creative Labs Nomad?
I do.
Had a kind of similar situation with that. So the first iPod was the 5 gig model, and then a little bit later, they launched the 10 gig model. And I think it was the following year, the 10 and 20 replaced the 5 and 10. The first one I purchased was the 20 gig model. And a coworker of mine at the time purchased a Nomad. And you could very easily make the Nomad skip. And the sound coming out of it just sounded kind of tinny, I guess is a good way to put it, kind of flat. Whereas you could not easily reproduce the same things with the iPod. Could never reproduce the audio quality things. You could, of course, make the iPod skip if you tried.
Yeah.
Or not skip, but pause and then resume.
Yeah, it had the. I think it had the same technology as the Macs, where it would break the hard drive. Had like a braking system so that it wouldn't damage the platter. Do you remember?
Yeah, there was something like that going on because it would buffer a certain amount of time cache-wise, and then if you were shaking it enough or if it was moving around enough, after it reached the end of that buffer, it would pause.
Yeah, so it reminds me that the length of time, the shock protection, I think was a selling point for portable CD players. What is it? Shock protection or anti-skip, or I don't remember, but it's basically the cache.
Same things. They were marketed in different ways, but it was talking about the same feature.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I didn't know if there was if they actually settled on like there's the marketing term, but I wasn't sure if they had settled on an actual term for the feature itself. I mean, in computer, it's a computer or a device that reads disk, so there's some computation done there, and there's a cache that you store and buffer. And I just remember thinking it was like when the disc players started coming out with 30-second skip protection, I was thinking do you push play and then I didn't understand the technology. I was like, do you push play and you got to wait 30 seconds to hear your song because it's buffered? I didn't get it, and so I was, no way, man. I like my 3-second skip protection. This is good. That's all I had. I had the 3-second skip protection.
It's kind of funny that the misinterpretation or misunderstanding of a feature would lead you to maintain a technologically inferior variant of it.
No, it wasn't. No, I was thinking. So it didn't keep me from getting a new one. I think spending money on something I already had that worked well is what kept me from getting the new one. But I just remember thinking I didn't get it, and I knew that there had to be something. I knew enough to think I don't understand something here, and it wasn't until much later in life that I was like, oh, that's what was going on. No, I actually made very specific choices with the CD player I got. So this would have been 1996, and I bought specifically a Sony car Discman. I don't know if you recall that particular.
I do. I had that same product.
Nice. So I chose the car Discman for many reasons. A few I think really good reasons to choose that. One, I planned on using it in a car, but it had more to do with I hated the headband headphones, and so I had my own earbud headphones. I had Sony earbud headphones, and so I didn't want to buy a player that had those headphones. And so I like the car one because it came with the cassette adapter so that you could play music from the CD player into a cassette deck, and it came with a 12-volt cigarette lighter adapter for power, and it had a heat-resistant cabinet and a backlit display, and no headband headphones. Those were my decision picking that device. And I got one that was a year old from Service Merchandise was selling the last year's model, and so I got that because it was less expensive.
I remember buying a number of products at Circuit City.
I think we talked about this, but my dad bought mini DV camcorder from Circuit City.
I think the first car stereo system that I purchased, if I'm recalling correctly, I purchased from Circuit City. It may have been the second. The first one may have been from Best Buy at the time. But either way, I remember not being overly wise and buying from both of the big box retailers and having them install. And both of those times, the decision was not the best in the world.
Should have been Crutchfield.
I did eventually learn the error of my ways and ordered from Crutchfield.
They're still around.
Oh yeah, I still glance at stuff from them. And do you remember? Is it Whitney's? There's something with a Whit. I don't remember the full name. But they used to specialize in the like interior components, not electronics typically necessarily, but the like replacement other pieces that you might need if you damaged something inside.
I'm not familiar with this. This is interesting to me.
I'll take that as something that I may or may not follow up on.
I remember Crutchfield specifically because they would send you an adapter to make sure that whatever you bought fit into your vehicle. Not thinking that most things there's a fairly universal form factor there. But if you had a car that was a little bit off, they would have an adapter so that what you bought, you stick it in there, and then you put the adapter in so that it would actually look nice. I thought that was really cool.
I think they've changed their model slightly. I think now there's just a package of items that you may or may not need. It's relatively heavily discounted if you bundle it in with whatever you're ordering.
Have aftermarket stereos in cars declined in the past number of years? I don't know. I feel like yes.
I think you could think that just from the general feature set that you find in vehicles now, as opposed to what most people want. Most people are still just wanting some auxiliary input and they're good to go. But I think the more technologically adept or astute actually more active in the market than we would think because of technologies like CarPlay and Android Auto.
Yep. My current car originally didn't have neither. It had a puny little screen with buttons in the bottom. And I'm like, no, I need a navigation system. And but I won't pay close to $600 to have the GPS antenna connected to the car to actually be able to transmit. So I got a GPS capable Kenwood Excelso, something like that. That has everything, has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It works with Siri pretty well. That's something that we can talk about later. I loved it. I don't have any input in terms of if I know if it is more or less. I do agree with Jesse that the fact that the car manufacturers are having almost the basic model to have at least an Apple CarPlay and Android Auto may produce a final effect of not having to go aftermarket that often. But in my case, and my car is fairly recent, it's a 2017, it didn't have it. I do want it, and I end up getting one.
My old car was from 99, and when I bought it, the head unit had been replaced. I think it came with a CD player and cassette deck, and the whoever I bought it from had put in the Walmart brand head unit. I think it was like a $50 head unit with an auxiliary port. And it's interesting that you said that's the main thing that people want. That thing just drove me crazy. Like, I remember sitting like 3 years ago thinking, I think I want to buy a new car. And I realized, no, I just need to buy a new head unit for my car because like I just want Bluetooth audio. I just want to be able to get in and it start playing music or a podcast without having to connect a wire. And after I put a new head unit in, I was just like, yep, I'm good to go. And, 3 years went by and I got a new car and now I'm back to not quite to square. Yeah, I'm back to square one because the head unit that I have plays compact disc, and there is so it's 2008, and car manufacturers are usually, I don't know, 5 years behind in technology, for like what they call infotainment now. They're usually about 5 years behind. So there's an auxiliary port in the center console, and there's no way to get a wire out. And I was like, that's dumb. And then I realized, it's a 2008 Forerunner. So let's see, how were we getting music in 2003? That is like MP3 players are on the rise. Okay, I get it. You take your MP3 player, you play the album that you want or the playlist that you have made, and then you put the MP3 player in the center console and close it and let it play. That's where we were, and that's what I have. And I feel pretty soon I'm going to replace the head unit and get an Apple CarPlay head unit.
I have the contacts for you.
I've been debating replacing the unit in the Jeep. So I have a 2012 Grand Cherokee, and
I'm just remembering your adapter.
Yeah,
it's clever.
I mean, overall, it does actually fit all the needs that I have for it. I just want CarPlay, and I want wireless CarPlay. I don't want any of this having to plug it in and stuff.
Yes. No, I will not get I will not go back to the wire. I want wireless CarPlay.
And I did some basic research. I have multiple problems because my vehicle is newer, that to retain functionality I currently have, I have to buy extra pieces to make sure that all of those things continue to work.
Which functionality do you need to continue to work?
So the person who originally purchased my Grand Cherokee from the factory had them also install the entertainment package, which includes displays in the headrests pointing to the back seats. And those displays include integrated DVD players and inputs, or auxiliary inputs. And the head unit can technically play a DVD that is broadcast. I think it's broadcast. It may be the other way around. Either way, I refuse to use optical media anyway, hence the adapter story, which we can get into if we want.
Yeah.
But so in order to retain that functionality, I have to have some box thing that will allow me to play a movie from the head unit to those screens, even though the vehicle is moving, so that it won't stop it from playing the video, even though it won't show it on the screen of the display up front. And then in order to retain the functionality of the backup camera, because it goes to the same radio, it has to go through an adapter and then the steering wheel controls. And I don't remember all the details, but I remember as I was looking through it, it's like in order to retain the functionality of all of those things, I can't go straight to the head unit. I have to go through this other box that then aggregates all of that and connects to the head unit, the replacement head unit.
That is a much harder problem to solve.
Is that box that you mentioned, is the Maestro, I think is the name?
That sounds familiar. It's something that I know you were familiar with.
Yeah. I had to install something similar to mine to retain the steering wheel controls, because I probably never remove my hands out of the steering wheel, and I have everything that I need, including the voice commands and, volumes, hang up and pick up, cruise control and everything. So I did had to install the Maestro, but my Maestro is far more basic than what you need, because mine was like the $60 one. I think yours is close to 10 times more than that because of the added capability. So you are looking about $600 for just that, plus the head unit, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it was quite that high. I think it was more in the $350 range, but still, that's a pretty significant chunk on top of the cost of a head unit that has wireless CarPlay.
Yeah, because I think the wireless CarPlay head units are like around $600.
When I purchased mine, the wireless, well, I'm talking a year ago, but still, the wireless CarPlay is close to $1,000. Mine is, the head unit alone is $600. But yeah, it was close to $1,000 for the wireless CarPlay. and everything.
This year I was thinking of changing the head unit in my old vehicle. And, I have a new vehicle. And I found a good Pioneer head unit that has wireless CarPlay. It's been at about $600, and I think JVC has one. So the prices have been going down.
Nice.
So,
or you can have a BMW.
Yeah, Ford has it. All the 2020 Toyotas have CarPlay. They're finally getting in there, putting it in their new vehicles, but it's taken a while. But over the summer, I had to rent a car, and it had CarPlay, and I was like, I got to using it, and I was like, I don't think I'll get a head unit with CarPlay for my old 4Runner. And like using it in a rental, I was like, I don't really need this. I've got wireless, I've got Bluetooth for audio. That's good enough. And now that for my new 4Runner, to put in a single DIN head unit would not look good. And so I was like, well, if I have to do double DIN, I might as well get CarPlay.
So something that I always find interesting is that I had the chance to rent a car in one of our trips with Valeria, and she has an Android phone, which I never get my head around, and I have an iPhone, and the head unit of the car was wireless CarPlay, but has wired Android Auto. And yeah, it was. No, it's it was hilarious because of course I pick on her a lot, and but then I started realizing, why is that? I mean, if you go to BMWs, don't go far. BMWs have wireless Apple CarPlay and no Android Auto. So it's like, I don't know what's happening, but it's more and more frequent that you find the wireless stuff on the Apple side. With the Acura, is the same story. They released their cars of 2019 with CarPlay, with all the powers and possibilities, and Android Auto was nowhere around. It's like they are catching up with some delay. I don't know if it's a car manufacturer is the one of delaying because of agreements or something, because that was Toyota's reason. Or is it an Android platform which is not up to date on that side? I don't know.
It could be many. Both of those are very plausible.
My speculation would be more that the user experience matters more in the car. And as you have so many variations of what you might find running Android in one version or another, trying to maintain compatibility is a nightmare. And so if users are reporting that they're frustrated or things not working, or you're fielding a certain volume of questions or concerns or complaints about how difficult it is to get something to work, wouldn't surprise me at all if you say, well, you know what, at least with this, we can say it works with this model phone to this model phone and call it a day.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And if you eliminate wireless as a variable, then that makes your troubleshooting, your support a lot easier. I want to get to Jesse's adapter, but I also wanted to briefly call out the mixed marriage that you're in. You have an iPhone and your wife has an Android phone. I'm in a mixed relationship myself. My girlfriend has an Android device, and she's been eyeing my iPhone, but not for the reasons one might expect. But let me ask you, Juan, how is being in this kind of relationship affected your life? Because I just want to, because you're a computer person, I'm going to assume that you do some troubleshooting for your wife and other family members. Am I right?
You're absolutely right. And the fact that my wife is a medical doctor who actually can hire an assistant to turn on the computer, and hence the difficulty of the task. However, I have to admit that when it comes to Android, I find myself very uncomfortable using it. I I don't know if it is because I'm very familiarized with the environment in Apple. I have my MacBook, I have iPad, I have the iPhone, and I have, since the iPhone, the first iPhone, the one that has two-tone colors, the gray and black behind.
Yeah.
I have always had iPhone. I've had pretty much all of them till the 10. The 11, I feel that was not much different of the 10. Yeah, it has enhancements on hardware. And the 12 will go kind of in the same way. And now I will decided to jump maybe every 2 years or so. I don't know. But I've always have iPhone. And when I go to Android, because my wife is like, oh yeah, I need I don't know, whichever the request, I find myself needing of her to help me. It's like, answer blah, move this, and I'm like, I mean, how is this happening? So I have two ways of interpreting that. Is either I'm stupid, which is possible, or the user experience on the Android side is lacking because I don't know. I don't say it's complex. I say it's convoluted, and every time that I deal with that has affected in the fact that when she's, can you answer that call? I'm like, yeah, no, I'm just passing the phone. I'm just ignoring that stuff. Then it comes on. My wife has been picking on the iPhone after this experience with the Apple CarPlay, because I show her the Apple CarPlay, and even she said, like, you know, the Google Maps in CarPlay sound better than in Android Auto. I'm like, what do you mean? And she says, like, back to back. We stop in one parking spot, and she says, like, okay, set this destination. I put the destination, and okay, it's like in the next whatever, take right. But in the Android Auto, even though it was wired, it was like it has like a noise in front. Was like in 500 years, like this. And I'm like, wow. And she's like, yeah, I don't know why. I'm like, you know what? There is a way to solve that. Yeah, what is the way? You pass to freaking iPhone. that's the easiest way. So she's kind of interested on that right now. But yeah, that's how much more or less has affected. I'm not an Android guy. When in AT&T, when we renew our phones, they give us free tablets with Android. Mine is in my cabinet. It's packed, new, if you want. Yeah.
One quick question, because you mentioned you're familiar with Apple because you use a MacBook. Are you using your MacBook now?
Yes, I am using my MacBook and Audio Hijack as you guys.
Sorry, are you using your, like for work, are you using your MacBook Pro solely for work, or do you still have, do you still doing two computers?
I have my two computers for legacy reasons, and because before my security job, I was more into any building issues or any library problems. Was easier to leverage directly on a system that is also an open source. So I basically have that for that reason. But 99.9% of the time I'm working on my MacBook Pro. Before I had this MacBook Pro, personally I had a couple of MacBook Airs. This is the first time with a Pro, and I couldn't be happier with those machines. They are pretty good. Very satisfied. But yeah, I do preserve the Linux for legacy issues and on-call stuff that I might need to check.
I'm mostly giving you a hard time because 99% of the time I would see you using the Linux machine. So
that was pre-pandemic. Pandemic has taught me better ways.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like you've ventured more into Android than I have. My girlfriend has a Pixel, and like the few times I've held it, I was like, no, I can't do anything. Like I inadvertently touch something that does something that I don't want it to do. I'm just like, nope, don't want to touch it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to look at it. So it was the thing that she's actually so. It's interesting to me because she was saying we went on a trip together before the pandemic, and I lost my phone on the airplane, and it was kind of a moment, and I was just telling her in front of some airport employees that were trying to help me recover my phone that I was like, this phone's not going to be useful to anybody because like I have I'm logged into my iCloud account, and it doesn't matter what they can't unlock it. It's a brick.
Yeah.
And I think having that conversation is what got my phone back to me, because I ended up getting my phone back. Somebody brought it to me, and so that has been the selling point for her. She's my girlfriend has been she's had a Mac. She's had 2 MacBook Airs. She's on her second MacBook Air. So she's using Apple products, and it's the security features that she's really interested in. And I feel like I'm so apprehensive to tell her to just like go ahead and do it, because she uses Google Assistant a lot, and it's good. And you made a comment about how like CarPlay in your car works really well with Siri, and I'm like, when you said that, I was just like, nothing works well with Siri. Siri is oh shit, I just made it.
You just named it.
So yeah.
Oh boy.
Nothing. Sometimes I can't get a timer for 50 minutes. Like one time
it understands 15.
It understands 15, and I kept starting. I tried 5 times, and it was for a 50-minute timer. It's like I need to do a 51-minute timer or a 49-minute timer. That's not a problem. But every time it gets 15, it makes a 15-minute timer. Yeah, so
that's fantastic. I mean, I have a Google Assistant at home. We have those Lenovo screens that we use that is in the kitchens for, I don't know, recipes, or to check on the cameras or something, or to turn on the Roomba. It's pretty good. However, for me, Siri, and I have a hypothesis of why that this may happen. Siri has been flawless in my experience, and I have been using Siri for quite some time. I have to say, the latest upgrade improved it substantially. The small imperfections or inaccuracies that it had has been mostly resolved. My hypothesis is that due to I'm a foreign national speaking English, I am forced to try to speak very clearly when I talk to Siri. And it might affect, I don't know, but in the car, sometimes I just say, I won't call the name, but hey, device, take me home. And it says, like, setting home as your destination. Hey, device, call this person. Said this thing. Send the messages. I was driving back from the dinner with you guys when we were chatting. Those are all Siri.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, send this message. What do you want to say? Hey guys, I have this situation, I will be back soon. Thank you. See you soon, or something. And your message says blah 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 blah. Say, you want to send it? Yes. Boom. So.
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit too impatient, like when sending messages through Siri. But I actually want to take a moment to test out the timer. Let's see if it works. I feel like a 50-minute timer is the true test.
Okay. You want to do it here?
Hey Siri, set a 50-minute timer. Oh, I got a 50-minute timer. That's the first time I've tried it in iOS 14. It is counting down 49 minutes and 50 seconds to go.
Boom. Boom.
So I will say that I have yet to have that type of positive experience with Siri.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that in Siri usage with CarPlay actually changes that a lot, because WhatsApp, all messages and everything are through Siri, because you cannot actually type in the screen while you are driving. It's locked. You cannot do it. So that might be a good exposure for you. Sorry, I interrupt you, but it's very likely that you will get to experience Siri more often in that way. That's how I get to experience it, and since then I'm using it, and it's been pretty good. So.
Well, I can do a 50-minute timer now, so I'm the bar is low, but I'm impressed.
This entire previous conversation had me reflecting on how nice it is to be in a pure household.
I was thinking about that too, because I was going to say Jesse has not experienced this, Not only does Jesse's wife use Apple products. Jesse, where'd you meet your wife?
We both worked at the same Apple store.
Yeah.
Once you get used to the environment and the ecosystem of Apple, it becomes so interconnected. I was actually, when we were about to start this session, I was answering the chat messages from my MacBook because my cell phone is in my bedroom right now. So it becomes convenient. It's just comfortable. It's magnificent. I love it. So
I do too. I love the integration with macOS, and like at this point right now, when sending text messages, I'm in a text group where 5 out of the 8 people that are in the group have iPhones. So there are 3 people with Android that are just making this group, making it all SMS, which is, it's a little painful, but there's a silver lining, because you can react to messages. And if it's SMS, you can still react to them, and on your side you see your reaction. So you get, you can do the thumbs up, you can do the heart, you can do the question, the exclamation, but everyone else gets a text message saying that John has, So that ends up being fun because, like, if somebody likes a like, it starts to build on itself, and that allows for some humorous moments. So the iPhone users will go ahead and do it just to spite the Android users. And right now it's become a bigger problem for me because there's somebody on there that's like, it's for some reason my text message, my SMS keep failing. So
you just remind me of Isabella. My daughter is in a school. And the professor and we have a very close communication. But because Valeria is an Android user, she has recurred to me to say, because the professor and myself, the teacher and myself, we both use iPhone. And so when she sends a picture or something of Isabella, Valeria, my wife, always call me can you like that picture? Because I can't. And I'm like, sure. So I hit the heart thingy or the haha or whichever, and I see immediately in her phone, ping, and saying like, one says love to whatever the comment or whatever the thing. And it's always funny. I didn't thought about it until you mentioned it. So it's it's pretty fun. And the fact that in the 14th, we are in the iOS 14, I think, that we can have like a reply to a message and create independent threads within the same conversation. I think Jesse mentioned that as a highlight, and I didn't thought about it until I started using it, that you can have multiple conversation within a conversation. You cannot do that in an Android.
No.
So
I have one friend that has Android, and he has graciously used Facebook Messenger. Like, Facebook Messenger, better than SMS. But that I've actually, for the SMS messages, it'll say liked, and it'll have the message that was liked or whatever. I've faked those before. I have like copied the text from that I wanted to like, and then I put liked, like I put my name, John liked, and then pasted it just to fake it to see for funsies.
You made the manual process.
Yeah, actually, I need to do that in a group where it's all iPhone users, and just to see if they notice that. But whenever I send lasers, I will send lasers, and they'll say it got with lasers, and they're like, okay, it just said it has the text sent with lasers, and then I'll do a screen recording and send the screen recording so that they can actually see it, and they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. So Jesse, will you tell us about your adapter?
Well, let's start with why I went going through and looking for adapters.
Oh, I think we should start before that and actually look at the adapter. I was looking for a picture of it. I don't think you've sent one to me, but I know I've seen it.
Yeah, it was posted on social media.
Okay.
So it'll be in the Instagram feed. So if you go look for JT Hart on Instagram, you will see a picture of a coil set of adapters, and that's the focus of our conversation.
Go ahead and like it and subscribe.
Yeah, by all means. Well, the podcast has its own account, so.
Oh, my bad.
But the very first time we decided to use it, it was taking a trip up to the Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, and we just put Cars in the DVD player in the back of the headrest for my son to watch on the way up, and kept having issues with it pausing or locking up or whatever. I don't even remember specifically at that point.
And this is
a
DVD.
That was
right?
that was physical disc,
So
optical disc.
Maybe it only had like 3-second shock protection.
Yeah, maybe if that. And we had some difficulty getting it to even start playing, so it may very well just be that the longevity of these devices is pretty low. But after that experience, I decided, you know what, I'm never dealing with optical media again except to rip it. I just refuse. I'm done. And so I have an iPad Pro, and with the Lightning connector on it, I knew I could plug in an adapter to go from that to HDMI, right? The technology in the Jeep, the only input method is the old, 3.5 inch, I think, mixed mini AV jack. So if anybody's not familiar with what I'm describing, it's like a headphone jack, but it provides 2-channel stereo, audio, and a video channel. So if you think about an old school headphone jack that also is, no longer in use on modern devices.
You have in the picture, the description of the picture, 3.5 inch mini AV.
Yeah. And so that was what I needed to get to. And I wasn't entirely sure how I was going to get there. And what I ended up with was a chain of adapters to go from Lightning to HDMI, HDMI to break out to...
it's composite.
Composite. I was wanting to say component, and I knew that was wrong. To composite audio video, and then composite audio video to mini AV. And that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4 adapter points? 4 or 5? Either way, going from a modern digital signal to an old, horrible mini 3.5 inch jack, and it works flawlessly.
I was about to ask you if it actually works as intended, but yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because you can't get just short little adapters, a couple of those cables are pretty long. So when we use them, the mini 3.5 inch jack plugs in, to the unit on the back of the headrest in front of my son's car seat, and then we loop the cable through you raise the headrest slightly, loop the cable underneath that piece, and then through like the posts so that it doesn't fall off either side. And there's more than enough cable to then drop it down beside the seat, bring it up into the front seat, plug it into the iPad, and still have enough cable to have it out of the way and set in a pocket on the door.
Or you both can watch the movie.
Yeah, for that I'd have to put a mount up front, and that gets in the way of other controls.
I was looking at this. This could also be solved with an iPod video, because you can do that 3.5 inch. I think it's also 8 millimeter. You can do that 3.5 mini jack, AV mini jack to a 3.5 AV mini jack, and put your videos on an iPod. iPod would have been iPod video. It was the last.
Yeah, but then I would have to track down an iPod video and hope that it continues to work. I can always find an Apple device with Lightning at the moment.
Oh, totally. I was gonna say I have the reason that comes to mind is I have an iPod video, and I've come across some. There are modifications that you can make to the iPod video. You can pop in a new battery as well as increase the capacity. I think there's a guy who's got one that's got 2 terabytes.
Ooh.
Yeah. I think it's 2 mini SD cards.
It's actually kind of impressive if you think about the effort it would take to retrofit that.
I will. There's there's a manufacturer that makes an adapter to go. So, it's not too far-fetched because it used to be that, let's see, I can't remember, I think it's 1.8 inch hard drive, because like standard notebook hard drive was like 2.5 inches. And then there was the iPod, the iPods with rotational hard drives, and the first generation MacBook Air had a 1.8 inch hard drive, and so there's a connector for it. So
I would be curious to see if the hard drive is pretty large, if the processor that is mounted on the iPhone or iPod or whichever the device can actually have the address space to actually utilize the entirety of those drives. Wow.
It does, yeah. Like it's in the I guess the firmware. I don't think it's software that's running on the iPods. I think it's. I don't want to say something that I don't actually know about.
Isn't that more in the points in the tagline?
Oh, yeah. So I think the first few generations iPods ran firmware, and like once they got to color, because they had you had photographs, you had the iPod photo and the iPod video. I think that actually was software. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's low level enough that, or it was designed in such a way that it actually does. Even if you put a hard drive in there that has a greater capacity than it was designed for, it makes use of the entire capacity. It's really interesting. I was watching this video. The guy put in 2 terabytes, and I think it was 2 terabytes, and he just connected it to iTunes. iTunes found it, formatted it. It's like, okay, you have 2 terabytes to use. And I was like, holy shit!
Wow.
Yeah.
I would be curious to see that. Huh. So, I know that I'm not the one guiding the show, but reading through the notes of the episode, there is something that I do want to make a follow-up with you guys, and it's the Series 6 watch. I know that, Jesse, you have been... give me a second. I think I heard in the previous episodes that you were first debating if having it or not, then decided to have it, and now you have it. So how is it going?
Yeah, so I did go ahead and get a Series 6 steel Apple Watch, and I think it was the right choice for me. The extra little bit of weight is not much, but it's just enough that it feels more like one of my previous watches. It feels good in the hands. Like the casing to me feels better. The display has a different feel to it, with it being sapphire, that I like, that I miss from previous watches. So overall, it just feels good. But my biggest complaint since the original Apple Watch was the lack of an always-on display. And they solved it with the Series 5. So the 6 is not new in that regard. But I had a Series 4 prior to deciding to purchase this one. And I just couldn't find a way to talk myself into upgrading just for the display. With the Series 6, I mostly talked myself into it for the display. But I could justify it because of the, however accurate or inaccurate the blood oxygen readings capability is kind of interesting and neat currently in the wake of pandemic. And the always-on altimeter, because of the ramifications of workouts being tracked a little bit more accurately as far as the activities that you're performing in certain workouts. And so I thought, all right, that's enough for me to talk myself into trying it. And after I got here and I put it on, I immediately thought, yeah, this is what a watch should feel like to me, and it's going to be here to stay. Now, John just needs to decide to get one.
Yeah. I'm still undecided.
What is keeping you from all this, John?
I'm not a watch wearer. That's probably the main thing. Like, there's a lot of cool things about the watch. My concern is buying the watch, using the watch for X amount of time because it's cool and new, and then, I'm back to not being a watch wearer, and now I have this watch that I I paid money for that's not being used.
Fair enough. But you're a very outdoorsy guy.
I know that almost got me to get an Apple Watch because there is an app I use on my phone for downloading trail maps, and they have an app for the Apple Watch, and you can track yourself on there, and just like that would be kind of nice.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes where that would become very useful is sometimes not a great place to wear a watch. And again, it's a lot mostly has to do with me not being a watch wearer, and so it's just like I'm going into a situation where it's like I want that, but I want to wear a watch even less than I do under normal circumstances.
Is it very resistant though?
It's not even that. It's not even like I'm afraid of breaking it. That's not the. It's that it will become uncomfortable to me.
Gotcha. Well, I think unlike Jesse, who prefers a watch with certain heavy weight on it, so he can feel that he's wearing a watch and not a sticker, you can go the other way around.
Well, I was gonna say, like I had a stainless steel watch and I really liked it, and I still have it, but most of the time it's the 16 years that I've had it, it's mostly been in a box. It's probably been in a box for a decade. And it's a nice watch. I don't wear watches. And I remember like a month after I got that watch, a friend of mine got a watch as well, a similar watch, and it made out of titanium. And I was like, oh, I should have gotten a titanium watch.
So one thing that I thought was interesting, prior to having our son, Emily was not a watch wearer either. And I ended up getting it for her for ease of being able to communicate during those first 8 months, year, where just child rear dominates everything. And after that, she has continued to wear it and ended up upgrading to a Series 4 at the same time I did. So that I can understand for sure not being a watch wearer. I think the biggest thing would be the conveniences that it brings, or the changes to how often you end up needing to look at the phone for certain tasks, whether or not that benefit outweighs having to wear it, and then whether having to wear it really feels uncomfortable, or if you find that it's something you ignore.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, like, I think I will get one to play with and see how I like it. And I've even thought about getting an older one, maybe even a used one or a reconditioned one. I know I've heard some good things about Apple products that were reconditioned on and then sold by Amazon, and so that has crossed my mind to be an avenue for getting one. But I don't know. I haven't bitten the bullet yet, and I don't know. At one point, I was there have been. I'll back up and say, like, there have been like 3 times where like I had like an order, like I was on the webpage and all I had to do was push buy, and I waited, and I didn't even talk myself out of it. I was like, let me just not do this on an impulse. And so that has been happened a few times. And but at one point I thought I wanted to wait for the thin Apple Watch. I don't think that's going to happen though.
No, I think the current form factor kind of hits the sweet spot for overall size to be a watch and be competitive with those who enjoy wearing a watch for wearing a watch.
I think that if I could get one, like a good one, like a Series 4 or higher, for $100 to try out, I would do that.
What is your cap?
I don't know.
So then we need to talk JF into getting one now.
I there was a time in my life that I do review of products as a complimentary, not job because it didn't give me money, but give me stuff. So thanks to that, I have some Bose equipment in my home. Thanks to that, I have also a smartwatch. Now, it's not an Apple. It's the Asus ZenWatch. So, of course, being an Apple user, an iPhone user, and with an Android wearable phone is kind of funny. You have to download an app and have it open all the time, which is the Google wearable, and have that cross alert and happening. I gotta say, it was pretty fun. I still have the ZenWatch. I use it eventually. It has the always on capabilities, and I'm talking it's not the newest ZenWatch. It's probably a 2017 model year. It has the always on screen with some saving, so it kind of like reduce the quality of the image, so it doesn't look as crisp when you are not looking at it. But as soon as you make the movement of looking, it has like all these fascias that you can make it look like a Rolex and everything. It's pretty fun. But due to it's not a natively built in the system, I couldn't read messages or dictate messages to it and everything. So the adaptation is still rudimentary, but it was fun. Based on that experience, I don't think it will take me very long to have the idea of purchasing one. The newest one looks cool. I'm just concerned of its resistance. Because I'm not clumsy, but my wife is very much, and she collides with my wrist like constantly, like when we're walking with Isabella, which is my daughter. Just in the house, give me X, give me Y, and move the baby chair from one car to the other, and the car seat, and or move I don't know, the diapers or whatever. So I don't know, because I don't want to be paying attention to a very expensive piece of equipment in my wrist if it is very, easy to break, because it will with this lifestyle that I have. So I don't know.
I am very rough on watches in general. My original Apple Watch was the first one, the one that's now referred to often as the Series 0, the ridiculously underpowered, worst experience one, and it still looks pristine.
Well, then sold. that was easy.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people have reported errors or issues with displays in different ways over the years, but my experience with them has been that they're very rugged. My Series 4, somehow or another, I managed to scratch the display, but I could only see it if I was looking for it in the correct lighting. It was just something that annoyed me because I knew it was there.
Yeah, it's like the analogy with the white dress with one black dot that is very small, but you will always focus your energy in that black dot. And
once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Correct. Yeah. And you will always turn it into the correct angle to see it and say, damn it, it's still there.
Yeah, that was the other contributing factor to talking myself into picking up a Series 6.
So you have one without the scratch. That's clever. Yeah, I have I'm a big fan of the Apple quality. Nonetheless, I consider the Apple builds usually their equipment. A lot of people, I have the classic friends. Being in technology business, you have always the classic friend that comes and say like, oh, but they are just overpriced machines because they only have this amount gigahertz and terabytes and blah and blah. And I always have tell him like, look, when I go and open up an Apple product, usually I will find an honest computer. And here is what I mean with honest. It's not that I will have the latest Intel or the latest X and Y, which you can. Is that the connectors that are made into the Apple machines are usually a good connector, is usually the right one, not the cheapest that make the function, but the one that is the most appropriate. And my experience with my MacBook Airs have been pretty good. I had a very big, it's not a very big dog, but it's a 65 pound dog, and it has resisted that dog on it, and it's a MacBook Air. So convinced me particularly of buying an Apple product has never been a problem. It's just that I'm never an early adapter of this kind of technology. I know that the Apple Watches have been around, but for a long time. But when there is a recent series, I usually expect people with criteria to buy them and hear their experience. Then I say like, okay, I can jump in, rather than me being the one and say, well, if you sneeze very hard, it will bend. So yeah, you know.
I think I might have told this story on the show, maybe not, but if you actually look at component for component, there are some components that you can't get in other computers that Apple has. Are like specifically with certain Intel chips. Like I remember this was a number of years ago when I worked for Apple, and somebody asked me about some very picky questions about, or very detailed questions about the Intel processor that was in the MacBook Pro, and we did some searching because I had no idea, because it was like very inside kind of question, and we did some looking around, and Apple uses when Apple was using at the time, Apple was using a revision of the Intel chip that could not find anywhere else.
Wow.
And it was like maybe the best fab of that chip. I don't know. I just remember looking at it and looking for the answers that this guy was asking me, and we both were like surprised that not only was Apple using like a Core 2 Duo, it was using the best possible Core 2 Duo that Intel had to offer.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. And their specs is not part of their marketing. Benchmarks are, but specs are not.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I think we're running a little bit long. So let's wrap the official show, and then we can continue to have a little bit of after show if you'd like.
I have an after show topic.
All right. Well, before we get to that, I'll add the outro that I have now created for the show, since we consistently forget to tell people where to find us.
I thought that
so
last
that'll
week.
Be tacked on. But before that, let's plug the Noob Guy. So, JF, take it away on where people can find you regularly.
That's pretty nice. Usually you can find my show, which is called The Noob Guy, in any possible platform, starting with Apple Podcast and going Spotify. Now Pandora will be included in Pandora Podcast, Google Podcast, all of those. The home of my page is in anchor.fm/The Noob Guy. I don't have yet an email registered to the channel. However, you can leave messages in the Anchor platform, and I will promptly answer them, and or leave them with the Untitled podcast if you want me back.
Sounds good. As always, you can reach us on Twitter at untitled_hosts with an S. We also have an Instagram account with the same name at untitled_hosts. You can send us an email at untitled.hosts@gmail.com. And you can visit the feed directly at theuntitledpodcast.com. Have a good night. Well, I'd say that wraps it for the show, and we can move into the follow-up, or the after show item that you mentioned, because I'm curious.
I bought a couple sticks of Kerrygold Irish butter. And I actually bought them like right after we talked about it. I think that was 2 weeks ago. And I used them this past week, and they were really good. I'd had Irish butter before. I just didn't know it was Irish butter. And I was like, oh, this is what Jesse was talking about. And I was like, it was a flavor that I had experienced before with some friends from New Zealand, and I was like, I was always wondering how they got their butter to taste so good. I was like, I didn't know. And as it turns out, all of my friends knew that Irish butter is a thing. I didn't. Like I was out with my girlfriend and some other friends, and they're like, "Yeah, Irish butter's a thing." And Becca was like, "Yeah, I only use Irish butter." And I was like, "Okay, why didn't you tell me?" And then my friend was like, "You got to try Swiss butter now." And I was like, "Okay."
I've never heard anybody recommend Swiss butter, so if you go down the path of becoming a butter connoisseur, I expect follow-up reports.
Yeah, apparently the Swiss butter is even better than the Irish butter.
So next time we have healthy pours, we will have healthy butter too.
You know, that's not a bad idea. I was just thinking, my friends from New Zealand would make scones, and they would make scones not like they don't make them like how Americans make scones. It's a different recipe. It's kind of like a biscuit, a little bit different. It's more like a biscuit than what I would think of as scone. But it's the thing that really makes it is like you take the scone, you put the butter on it, the Irish butter. That's where I had the first time I had Irish butter, and it's, that's good. And then you put some jam on it, and then you put whipped cream on top of that, and just the combination of the saltiness from the butter, the sweetness from the jam, the fruitiness from the jam, and then the light sweetness from the whipped cream. It's an excellent combination.
Now I will go to bed hungry.
Sounds interesting. I might have to actually look up a couple of recipes or presentations or whatever. I understand the differences. I certainly won't bake them. I don't have the patience for that, but Emily does.
The thing about the scones is, like, I can tell you exactly what I can tell you exactly what thing to look for the scone recipe. It's Edmund's scones. That is super easy to find. Like, that was much easier to find than figuring out what kind of butter they were using. But man, the Irish butter was good. I really liked it, and I was like, I can't wait to make eggs with it.
That Irish butter that you are mentioning, every time that I heard about foreign national butters, I end up with a kind of a yogurt. So how's the texture on that butter? Is like a butter, or is like more like a yogurt, kind of sour, creamy texture?
No, it is very much what you would think of as butter.
Okay.
I think it's a little softer than, like, at room temperature. I think it's a little softer than American butter.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably pretty accurate. But it's as far as consistency and presentation and everything, if you were to go into a grocery store and just buy, 2 sticks of butter or margarine or whatever, this would be similar packaging and presentation.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I think it like, the color looks, it's a nicer color. Like, I felt like it was a nicer color. But yeah, it definitely has a richer flavor. Noticeably better.
Yeah, makes eggs phenomenal for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to next, is eggs with this butter.
Nice.
Now, are you talking scrambled or fried or both?
90% of the time, I make mine over easy. I do deviate occasionally and do an omelet or something scrambled, or I think twice over the past 6 months I've had them sunny side up.
All right. See, it depends on where I am and sometimes the application. I'll do like a straight up fried egg and like try to get just the right amount of runniness if I'm going to put it on a sandwich. Like, I want it to be runny, but I don't want it all over my plate.
Are you a fan of breakfast burritos?
I think I'm a fan of almost all breakfast food. So yes, yeah, I do like a breakfast burrito.
Every breakfast burrito that I find sold around here, whether it's a little independent shop at a farmer's market or if it's a conglomerate, the premise is generally the same. It's a scrambled egg with most of the time sausage, and then you might find peppers intertwined. And that's fine if that's what you want. It's horrible compared to my go-to.
What's your go-to?
Glad you asked. So I do 2 eggs over easy. It's a layer of shredded cheese on the bottom, the 2 eggs, and then typically I do 2 slices of bacon, and then another layer of shredded cheese, and then a layer of salsa.
Ooh, that
Define
sounds good.
salsa.
And the one that I typically use lately is Newman's own black bean and corn salsa.
Now we're talking. That sounds pretty fantastic, I shall say.
Yeah, it's good. It's my go-to. Growing up, my dad's variant was egg over easy with sausage patty normally instead of bacon, but the rest of it was the same except the salsa that he used was the Tostitos.
One time I made, it was somewhere in, like on purpose, the recipe, it was something in between a frittata and a souffle, and it had chorizo in it, and then it was topped with a parsley and onion salad. Oh, it was so good. It was like, and for me, it was a vehicle for the chorizo. I love chorizo.
Sounds good.
It was really good.
Though I am a big fan of chorizo, I always have to be very careful on which food I am putting it on, because the chorizo can be very overpowering, and if you want it as a compliment or as like to be like the good partner of a food, you can find yourself in a trouble. I tried once a recipe that I saw in a gourmet channel a few years ago that was chorizo with a blue cheese sauce.
Oh no!
Hear me out. When I tried the first time, not cooked by me but a professional chef back in my country, it was fantastic. It had the right proportions. Of course, those are the 2 elements that I remember in my brain. There were more. I think there was a mashed potato that kind of bridges the difference between the two. But the problem is that proportion. I'm not a professional chef by any means, so when I try it myself, it's so overpowering one side or the other. So
that's why I said oh no. That was because chorizo is very strong. Blue cheese is very strong. They're oftentimes both headliners, and to have them together just seems like
noisy.
It could, yeah, at best.
Yeah.
There's a cooking show. There was I say cooking show. One of the professional chefs, celebrity chefs that I followed, the one that I like the most is Jamie Oliver. He's the Englishman from. Well, I was going to say he's an Englishman, but he has made started his career with Italian food, but he's, done all sorts of things. But he had a short series where he was visiting various cities, and the whole premise of this series was that you really get to understand a culture by the food that they eat. And one of the best ones was Andalusia, Spain. And there was a breakfast. He called it like the best hangover breakfast. It was little toasties, like little baguette bread that was sliced on the bias and toasted in the pan with quail eggs and serrano ham. And I feel like there was something else that he had with it, but. He might have had chorizo sausage with it, but it looks so lovely.
A good presentation. Usually you eat with all your senses. If you're doing it right, you are seeing the food and getting into it. You can smell it. You can hear it. You can feel it when you are the textures and then the flavor. So it's a whole orchestration of food. It's a whole orchestration that a food can give you that sometimes is very underrated, especially when you are getting used to like fast foods, that they are very monotonic in that sense. It's either you taste it or you see it. It looks fantastic and it tastes like plastic or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest differentiation between common food, not to call it fast food, but common food that you do when you don't have like time, and when you actually go to a restaurant that will serve you like the whole experience. So yeah, what you are describing sounds to me in my imagination as the whole experience.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find a video clip of that and send it to you.
I have a question about the recordings, but I think that I can do that tomorrow onto how to share it with you guys. I know it's in a cloud drive, but I've never used it in the I never used it the Apple Cloud before, so I'm a very underexperienced on that.
Oh, well, you won't experience the heartache that got to where they are now. Apple, like their cloud services have gotten usable, very usable.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward setting it up. The only hiccup that I had on my side was at one point I couldn't remember how I shared the link to the folder instead of just sharing supposedly the contents of the folder.
Oh.
But that's not something that you would encounter anyway, since it's hosted on my account.
Yeah, you sent me a link, and I am seeing a couple of files from John. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll remove those before I go to bed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, tomorrow morning, or I can just put them to pass to transmit to that location if you want, or just let me know how you prefer.
Yeah, easiest thing is just to drop it there.
Okay, will do.
Cool.
Thank you for having me. I think I forgot to actually say that in the episode. Thank you for having me as a guest. I truly I enjoy the conversations anyway. And I enjoy hearing to this show every time that I am either driving to the office or I don't know, like at night my wife goes to bed a bit earlier than I do, and sometimes I just put it in the on my headset and just listen to it a little bit, and it's usually pretty fun. So thank you for having me here.
Glad you joined us.
Yeah, I'm so glad you joined us. That was fun.
Yeah, it's podcast is fantastic. I love it. My little show is not as elaborate as this one. I have my little hierarchy of what I want to talk, and it's small topics always. It's like one of the bullet points just to talk in one episode, and that's it. But I do appreciate the complexity and the structure of this one pretty much. So that was pretty cool. So glad to join anytime. And whenever you guys feel comfortable to have me, I will be very, very much inclined to say absolutely yes, let's do it.
Well, we will definitely have you back.
Yay. Sounds great.
Unless we get a lot of messages saying don't have that guy back, and then we'll have to have a show where you come back anyway and we tell you why.
Like, you are invited to be fan of our podcast. Bye. Yeah, sounds great. Thank you very much. And well, I think I will. I don't know. I haven't stopped the recording. Should I stop it now?
I normally stop it after we actually say goodnight. So.
Yeah.
Oh crap.
Yeah, there's editing.
I have no problems cutting out stuff that's unnecessary.
All right. Good night, all.
Good night.